Hey guys, Cody with CJC Off-Road. Those of you who have been following along know us as the Dodge and Ford HD truck guys. However, behind me is my 2021 Ford Bronco. In 2019, 2020, Ford announced the Bronco. I put my $100 deposit down and thought, what could go wrong? That was gonna be a very cool vehicle. Fast forward to now, we actually have Carli Suspension for the Broncos. So apparently I was not the only one that had that thought. Sage Carli of Carli Suspension came in and also ordered one at the same time, unbeknownst to me, and had an evil plan to devise a very, very cool system in a complete cohesive package, something that is not quite common in the Bronco and Jeep world. But I realized you guys have no clue this thing exists. This has been my personal hunting, weekend warrior, family wagon for about 3.5, 4 years now, but it's never made it on basically any of our social media, sans a couple Instagram posts. So we're gonna give you guys a walkthrough today of basically what we've put together with this Bronco. Now, at the present moment, the current Broncos are essentially going to be the same platform. So what we're looking at today will essentially span from 21 to 25 and hopefully even forward from there. As a whole, the overall goal with this complete system and build, not only on my side, but on Carli Suspension's behalf, was to try to come up with a system that works well at the high-speed off-road, low-speed off-road, in the rocks, as a daily driver. And I think they did an extremely good job at capturing all of those aspects in one complete overall suspension package. Now, typically when you go out and you look and people talk about shocks, things like that, you'll have a setup that's designed to really charge hard off-road, doesn't really quite work well in the rocks, things like that. But a lot of time was spent in the overall tuning of this shock package that is not done in basically any of their brands to allow for both a good ride at high speed, around town, and in rock crawler situations. And personally, I put that to the test myself. I've spent a lot of time in this. Currently, this Bronco actually has more miles on it than my Super Duty truck. So that tells you just how often I've been driving this Bronco. Now, when putting the initial plans together for this build, I quickly realized from a little bit of research, guys that are actually truly hard charging with the Broncos on 37-inch tires were having issues contacting the fenders, buckling the rear quarter panel, and so forth. That is how we ended up with the ADV 5-inch flare fiberglass fenders. Now, these fenders kind of integrated the OEM flare into them, but they do allow a little bit more suspension travel, just enough for the 37-inch front tire to just go to full bump. In certain situations, we've kind of just kissed. So I'd say we just landed on the mark of where we wanted to be of getting full stuff on a 37-inch tire. Moving from there, we wanted more front clearance. So that is where the Carli Suspension front bumper comes into play. Using the best lights in the business, Baja Designs, this bumper allows for much more of an approach angle while allowing us to run a winch, these fully machined D-ring tabs, so on and so forth, which we will get to in a more in-depth video on this whole build. But this bumper has been extremely stout. If you're looking at the bumper, you're also gonna notice the skid plate. As of now, that is a prototype part, but we're hoping they put it into production. Moving on to the suspension, that is gonna be Carli Suspension, it's in the name, their key component, right? The edge that they have on all of their brands is just the amount of time and tuning they put into their systems. So you'll notice a King 2.5 coilover behind me. It's gonna look like the King shock offered by a lot of other brands out there. However, internally, the valving is completely different. They spent a ton of time working on a setup that works in both high speed, low speed, rock crawling, daily driver situations, all of the above. Like I said, I've put a ton of road miles on this thing, along with a lot of off-road miles, going down to Baja, going into the mountains, going on to different hunting ranches, things like that. This Bronco has gone everywhere with me the last 3 years. So often we get the question of, do I want King 2.5s, do I want Fox 2.5s? The local guys tell me Fox is better than King, et cetera, et cetera. The difference is they're actually going to be very similar if you just grab a Fox 2.5 off the shelf and a King 2.5 off the shelf. The difference is going to be in the tuning, and that's where Carli Suspension has nailed it with this package. when this Bronco last went down to Baja, there was another Bronco actually on the trip, 4 doors, 37s, King 2.5s. The performance gap was huge between the two systems, and I'd say you're able to pick up 25, 35 miles an hour more on these extreme whoops as compared to that kind of off-the-shelf tune that is traditionally put in the 2.5 shock packages all across the market. One of my favorite parts about this build is that it is a complete cohesive system from a single manufacturer. So often when I'm scanning social media or on the forums, you'll see, person shows company A for control arms, company B for, steering or bumpers, etc. From the bumpers to the suspension, to the sliders, to the rear bumper, rear control arms, track bar, all of that, this is a Carli Suspension build, and I think that's something that's very unique on the market today, as most customers and even most companies have moved on to just a part by part approach. This is a well-rounded system that's going to work together in all situations. In fact, another unique component of it is going to be the steering system. So when the Broncos came out, first argument a lot of Jeep guys made, hey, this steering is never going to stand up to 37s, 40s, so on and so forth. As we found out, 37 was kind of the limit for the Broncos without going really crazy with modifications. But still, that is a ton of leverage on the factory tie rod end. Here we have the Carli Suspension double shear steering system, which we'll go very in depth to on another video. But this steering system allows for us to run a 37-inch tire, put all of the dirt miles that we have on this front end, and still have tight steering, and even better, not worry about shearing a factory tie rod end or an overseas tie rod end that's typically used by a lot of other manufacturers. From there, we can move on to the wheel and tire package. This is the 37 by 1250 R17 BFG KM3 tire. I chose that because it does look a little rock crawler-ish, yet has this soft compound that BFG is known for. I have not found it lacking in traction in any situation. These tires are wrapped around the Innovate G600 forged wheels. If you've been following the channel, you know that's one of our favorites. It is the nicest wheel on the market. One of the cool things I was able to pick the color scheme, so I went with a little bit of a matte black for the main wheel, along with a gloss black ring to kind of change it up from what you typically see around town. I can't stress how impressed I was with this setup overall. We've had a lot of fun over the years and a lot of very capable off-road vehicles, and for something that just seems so simple, essentially all bolt-on components minus these fenders, I can't say enough about how blown away I was with the off-road performance. I've taken this thing on camping trips where friends were running Razors, where guys had trucks with 4-link rear suspension where the back's been cut off, all tube. And we've gone on runs together, and this thing has actually been able to hang with those platforms. Granted, it is not an off-road race vehicle, it does have its limits. I've found those a couple times based upon some of the rust marks, scratches, etc. on this truck. However, overall, it has just been an extremely fun vehicle to own. I love taking not only around town, but also to the mountains again, on family trips, hunting trips, things like that. I can't say enough about just how much fun I've had in this platform. I know it sounds like I'm just bragging about the weekend car that I've had, but I do want to stress that a lot of guys that have Broncos also have Super Duties. So there's going to be a little bit of overlap on our channel, and what an excellent option this is for those guys that have those vehicles. Thanks for following along. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we will be doing a more in-depth video on the different components, what makes this front bumper different, what makes the steering different, the rock slider, so on and so forth. A little bit more in-depth. We just want to show you guys on the channel. It's been a long time coming, just based upon the miles I put on this thing. Show you guys what these Broncos are, what they're capable, and if you've been on the fence as a Super Duty owner, etc., comparing Bronco or Jeeps, I definitely give this Bronco a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys on the next one.